at the point in which we deliver to you the results of this match. First, I want to say thank you so much to Wolmer's Boys School and Mannings for a round that felt exactly as it should have been. Urgent, contested, and anchored in some real human stakes that we got here. This was a debate about what unions are for, what the horizon of justice should operate on, and how we should treat trade-offs when people are already struggling. And before I deliver even the results, two things about how we adjudicate. Firstly, this was an active motion, so we're not judging like which policy is morally prettier in the abstract. We're judging what a trade union as a negotiating and mobilizing institution should prioritize given its incentives, its constraints, and the real world it operates in. And with that, I want to say heartily thank you to my panelists, Jermaine Barrett and Calicia T. Vassal, for your expert analysis of how this match went. And secondly, we want to point out as a point of adjudication that we also reward the comparative material. So not simply, that wages matter versus pensions matter, but why your world produces better outcomes for workers and why the other side's mechanism collapses under pressure. So quickly, structurally, as a point of an OA, so both teams agree on the backdrop, right? Like Jamaica has a serious cost of living problem. Workers are squeezed by rent, transport, childcare, loans, and the general reality that inflation moves faster than most payslips. Opposition made that quite vivid and important. So the debate starts from scarcity and vulnerability. So the root causes, where the split emerged was what explains that vulnerability and what lever a union can reliably pull. Opposition rooted the problem in this insufficient immediate income relative to inflation and basic needs. Their story was, if people cannot survive now, any discussion about tomorrow is a luxury. And proposition rooted the same hardship into two deeper conditions. Firstly, the structural cost burdens that are not solved cleanly by wages because essential costs can rise, absorb wage gains, and leave workers fragile. And then secondly, weak bargaining position, which is driven by low productivity and low skill portability, which keeps workers replaceable and unions weak across time. That then led to the mechanism, right? The parallel ultimately preferred propositions mechanism because it is more institutionally realistic for trade unions and more durable against the exact risk opposition raised. So firstly, the feasibility and buy-in. Proposition did a crucial piece, we think, on the panel of the actor analysis. They told us why employers are more likely to concede future-oriented benefits than large immediate wage increases. Wage increases permanently raise the recurring costs and directly hit the profit margins. And so benefits like training partnerships, pensions, and negotiated non-wage packages can be structured, phased, co-financed, or tied to productivity, making them easier to sell across sectors. And this matters because the unions win by extracting concessions and not by announcing what they wish were true. And so proposition world for us explain how unions actually get something passed on the bargaining table. Opposition then told us what workers need. Proposition, told us what workers can plausibly secure at scale. So protecting real disposable income. So our opposition treated wages as the cleanest way to help because they are immediate and they're certain. Proposition conceded that kind of immediacy but flipped on the vantage point of certainty. They argued that wages do not reliably translate into improved welfare when the biggest pressures are structural living costs and inflation. So by negotiating benefits that directly offset the cost, people actually pay, such as healthcare, insurance, and other welfare supports. Unions offer an effective disposable income that is less exposed to price spikes and predatory costs increases. So the debate was essentially not only where money matters now versus later. It was more so cash that can be eaten by inflation versus protections that reduce the bills that you cannot avoid it. So for the panel, we think in this debate, a bit more opposition needed to show that the wages do a better job than the benefits at surviving that inflationary erosion. They asserted that, the wage inflation gap but they didn't for the panel answer the proposition claim that benefits target the exact pressure points in household budgets and are therefore harder for inflation to neutralize. So in that sense, that opposition, whereas they weren't, and this to their credit, they talked about things like worker migration. So like if people do not get immediate wages, they will leave, which is true. So proposition's response then about the modern mobile labor market and talking about like skills and portability, which are forms of wage power. When they say to us that training increases productivity, it makes workers less replaceable, it increases their employability and strengthens union because of the membership becoming stronger and more able to, well, to be less vulnerable as a result of the economy. We bought that a bit stronger for the panel. So in that sense, then just some things to point out to the opposition. We think we as a panel we needed to hear a bit more engagement on the feasibility point about like the employer buy-in. We also needed to hear a bit more about like how wage, for example, increases the escape of the inflationary consumption better than the targeted benefits. And so also on point of uncertainty, where your examples were very plausible, we needed more proof to show that it is uniquely worse on the side of the proposition than the wage uncertainty, especially in a context where real wages, we believe, can be eroded and employment can be unstable. So on balance, we think proposition, we got that clearer mechanization, we got a clearer justification. And so in the absence of some of the counter responses that would have liked to hear from opposition, the results are follows. This was a unanimous call by the panel. We think the team that advances to the quarterfinal automatically after this debate is the team in proposition. That is the Wolmer's Boys School, ending in this debate on a whopping 292 points. And the team in second place at a 21-point deficit is the team in opposition. That is the Mannings School ending this debate on 271 points. The best speaker in this debate from the vantage point of the panel was Mr. Jordan Dixon, the second speaker on proposition. So we wish, on behalf of the panel, we wish hearty congratulations to Team Wolmer's Boys School for advancing automatically to the quarterfinals of the JCSA High School Debate Competition 2025, and hearty commendations to Mannings School for what we thought was a very well-played effort to your team and to your credit. With that being said, in the true spirit of sportsmanship, I invite both teams virtually across the mic to unmute and exchange commendations and pleasantries to their competitors.
Well, thank you very much for the engagement, Mannings. It was enjoyed on this side, I can assure you of that. And we look forward to interacting with you guys in the future.
Thank you, and congratulations again, Women's Boy. This match was indeed exceptional, and we have learned a lot from the format of our speed. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. No problem.
Thank you so very much to both teams for your pleasantries. And with that, this debate has come to an end. This case, the case is closed. We thank our listeners so very much indeed for tuning in and ask you to keep up with our social media platforms or other means of communication for the future matches and fixtures. And thank you so much indeed once more for taking your time to tune into this match. All the very best.
Thank you. Please take care.